Operation Protective Edge entered its 27th day Sunday. Many Israeli troops were seen withdrawing from the Gaza Strip Saturday night, and senior military officials said the mission to eliminate Hamas's infiltration tunnels would be complete within 24 hours. But the operation is not over yet, said Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, adding that Israeli troops are simply redeploying and that the army will continue fighting until quiet has been restored. Welcome to Haaretz.com. I'm Aimee Amiga, and I'm here with Haaretz's Editor-in-Chief, Aluf Benn. Thank you for joining us, Aluf. Do you think we are witnessing the beginning of the end of this operation?
We're witnessing the end or the beginning of the end of the ground offensive.
Okay.
But the operation began with an air offensive, and you can argue that this kind of war has been around for years. It's an ongoing operation for a decade or so, almost. And now it's up to Hamas to decide whether they will go on firing rockets into Israel and prompt Israeli, mostly air attacks in response, or they want to keep the border quiet.
And do you think that Hamas is likely to continue firing rockets into Israel?
I can't guess what they're trying to achieve. Clearly, by this withdrawal, unilaterally, Israel is withdrawing itself also from any negotiation with Hamas over non-military related issues. I mean, Hamas came out with a laundry list of economic demands, lifting the blockade, building a seaport, reopening the long-defunct Palestinian airport in Rafah, and so on. And Israel is reluctant to discuss these issues with Hamas. And clearly Hamas, if it ends with, as Netanyahu called it in advance, quiet will be responded with quiet. If it only ends with a fragile ceasefire, then Hamas achieved nothing. So they might try to find some other way to remind everybody that they are an important power.
Right. Well, the Israeli cabinet has decided last night that it was going to rely on deterrence with Hamas. What will happen if Hamas is not deterred and keeps firing rockets into Israel?
Well, the military response to rockets is a combination of using the Iron Dome rocket defense system and mostly air attacks towards areas that are identified as rocket launching pads and so on. This could keep going, and for this Israel relies on its regular military force. It doesn't need to call reserves, and it's so far these kind of operations have been casualty-free from an Israeli standpoint. So if the rocket fire goes on, Israel can respond with the same means, defense and air attacks.
Well, over the past few years, we've seen that even since the last two operations in Gaza, we still saw rocket fire coming into the southern communities. This operation, we saw lots of rocket fire reaching Tel Aviv and beyond. Are you saying now that if rocket fire continues, that it may even continue into Tel Aviv and beyond as a regular thing?
It also depends on the how many rockets are left for Hamas to use. I mean, they don't have endless supply of rockets, and most of their rocket arsenal has been depleted, both by what they fired into Israel and by what the Israeli Air Force destroyed in Gaza. So I don't think they have much of a capability to keep on firing at Tel Aviv. And we saw in recent days that launches towards the depth of Israel, the central area and so on, went down considerably.
Right.
So Hamas will have now to do their own soul searching and decide whether they want to respond to the Israeli unilateral withdrawal with a ceasefire, or they want to try and once again drag Israel in, or to keep firing into Israel, or use other means.
Right. Thank you very much for joining us, Editor-in-Chief Aluf Benn. I'm Aimee Amiga, and you're on Haaretz.com.